welcome to the show. This is Work is Rigged, and I'm your host, Veronica Yao, the founder and career coach behind Atypical Careers. Now, Work is Rigged is a new podcast. We're really excited to have a lot of really honest and frank conversations about what it's actually like to be neurodivergent in the workplace. Because as we all know, if you are listening, you are probably neurodivergent yourself. So you probably know that a lot of the rules, and I use quotes very heavily on the word rules, in the workplace and in adult life generally, things are not always as straightforward as it seems, especially if you are somebody who thinks differently, operates differently, and is just trying to get through this crazy world. We have a guest today that I'm very excited to introduce. Her name is Kaci Muecke. She is a late diagnosed ADHDer, former speech language pathologist, PMP certified project manager, and now founder of Imperfectly Empowered, a coaching space for neurodivergent women navigating burnout, career pivots, and unmasking. Now, after more than a decade working across healthcare, schools, nonprofits, and tech, Kaci realized that the problem was never her capability. It was more about trying to force herself into environments and expectations that were never built with neurodivergent people in mind. And so today we're actually going to cover some of those very topics here and really dig into why is it so difficult for us to survive, much less thrive in the workplace, and what can we do to try and make things more manageable for ourselves? Kaci, thank you so much for being with us today. Is there anything else you want to share about yourself before we get started chatting?
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, I was a speech therapist for a long time, and after moving through lots of healthcare and corporate roles and more pivots really than I ever expected, the common thread for me, I realized wasn't the speech therapy. It was just helping people better understand themselves. So that's kind of how I landed where I am currently.
Now, tell me, because you work a lot with neurodivergent professionals and you touch the career aspect of things a lot, what is like the biggest problem you kind of see coming from neurodivergent professionals?
Honestly, I think they come to me thinking they have one problem, but the real problem is confidence. So I think people come to me saying, I need a new job. I don't know what it is. I don't know where to go from here, if I should find something else or if I should transition entirely, which is true. Like that's part of it. But I feel like the real issue is more of that emotional side underneath of just feeling confident, like identifying their transferable skills and their strengths and sort of getting out of the weeds of the logistics of it and taking it a little bit more slowly.
Absolutely. Because I think navigating the world of work is really sometimes more of an art than a science because there are so many nuances to the supposed rules that they actually give us. They're telling us that, in order to succeed, you need to complete this formula. You need to go to school, you need to graduate college or university or whatever post-secondary. You need to go into the workforce, maybe get an internship, maybe work your way up the ladder, and hopefully from there, you'll be able to support yourself. But that narrative is very quickly crumbling. Does that ring true for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think a big part of it is having the goal of knowing yourself well enough to recognize the environments where you naturally work best. And that may look different than what everybody else thinks is right for you. That's with
Mm.
me. It just seemed like being a speech therapist was the only option at the time. And it took me a really long time to realize that it was much less about the job and much more about what my strengths were, what kind of environment suited me, and that sort of thing.
No, that makes a lot of sense for sure. Now, tell me, what triggered your decision to leave the corporate world behind, to move from speech therapy, from project management, from all those things to what you are doing now?
Ooh, yeah. I guess the really honest answer started with a performance plan, like a PIP, performance improvement plan, that truly came out of nowhere at the last job that I was at. I was at a really large, well-known, pretty great, honestly, health tech company, and everything was going fine. And then, 6 or 8 months in, my supervisor came to me, and it was a genuine surprise because I had not gotten any feedback up to that point about anything going wrong. And I ask for a lot of feedback. I'm very clear about saying, please tell me things. And I ask a lot of questions. Through that process, it became very clear to me that it didn't matter what I did. I used the exact wording that my supervisor had given me to a specific question and then was told that that was wrong. I also was given feedback. I know. I also was given feedback about follow-up
You
emails.
read it on my face, right? I
I
was just
did.
like, you know.
Yes. I know, it's so silly, and it happens all the time. So, yeah, and then I was given feedback about a follow-up email, and I said, "Okay, well, can you give me an example of what a good follow-up email is then? Or can you tell me what I should have done differently?" And the answer was just, "Well, it depends." So,
Mhm.
that is what started it. Ultimately came down to my health for me is more important than anything else. It's more important than other people's opinions. It's more important than the judgment that I was very afraid of. And I've learned a lot about myself. I know the things that I'm good at. I know what's difficult for me. I know what drains me, what gives me energy. And those things weren't right for me. And like I said, helping people, women in particular, other neurodivergent folks is something that really means a lot to me. So that's why I ended up, owning a business and being my own boss. So I didn't have to do some of those things.
Oh my goodness, I relate so hard because honestly, what they don't want to admit is that a lot of these supposed rules or standards that they have in the workplace are based totally off of feeling and vibes. There is actual rule. It is literally just what they feel in the moment. A lot of folks who are, and I use the quote neurotypical because I believe it's a spectrum and we're all somewhere on there, but, people who fit more into the neurotypical profile don't have to think about the impact of their words or articulating specifically what would they mean because they've never had that problem of being constantly misunderstood and chastised for the way that they talk or behave or move. So really, when it comes down to asking for feedback, a lot of times, like what they really mean is it comes down to vibes and we don't like yours.
No, that's 100% true. I mean, I'm a pretty analytical person. So when these kinds of things happen, I just looked for evidence. So I was like, okay, I'm going to reread transcripts from the meetings I had. It was a tech company, so it was all there. I could go back and watch videos. And I analyzed it like line by line and could not figure out what I was doing wrong. And the worst part was, and you sort of alluded to this, was if I asked different people, they gave me different opinions. I had several coworkers who I was like, "Hey, I need some feedback here. Can you take a look at this example and tell me what I did wrong?" And they were like, "It looked fine to me." And then when I got that performance plan, I had gotten it from my direct supervisor, but I asked my manager, so the person above her, I said, "Hey, can you meet with me and go through these examples with me? I want to hear your opinion of what I did wrong, what I could improve." And same thing, it was like she was grasping for straws to tell me what was wrong with that instance and was trying to not step on the toes of her colleague, who was my supervisor. And it was just so interesting and really deflating, honestly, that I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong. I asked so many people and they didn't either. But that one person, in their opinion, who happened to be my supervisor, decided that there was something about how I showed up, whatever that may be, I still don't really know, that just wasn't suiting them or how they thought that someone should interact with clients.
Yeah, and arguably for a lot of people, I won't say everybody, but I'll say arguably, it's almost worse to come away with not knowing what the problem was. Like, it's almost like when you're job hunting and you get ghosted by the employer and you have no idea what was wrong with your application, and probably there was nothing wrong with the application, but just the not knowing and like the uncertainty, like that is just something that we have to live with our entire life. And people really realize how much that grinds down on you, not even to consider all the other factors at play as well.
Yeah, I mean, the RSD is real, the rejection sensitivity, and that's something I see so much with my clients. It's really easy to say, oh, take it with a grain of salt, try not to let it bother you, but it does. But the thing that I realize that I think is maybe the most important is that feedback isn't always objective truth. And we know that because it is sometimes people's opinions. So I've learned to instead just look for patterns. If five different people across multiple jobs are telling you the same thing, that's probably useful information and something that you could look into more for yourself. But if you have one manager who says you're too direct and everybody else seems just fine with you, maybe that's a personal preference, maybe that's culture. And so often we get vague feedback. And there's just such a big difference between, oh, your email was missing important information and your tone wasn't quite right. That doesn't tell me anything. So if the feedback is about communication style, then I want to know, like, what did I actually do wrong? What would someone else have done? What does success look like? And that's not usually information that we get. And it's not something that we're taught to ask for, which makes it really difficult in the moment.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to navigating out of a toxic work environment or a work environment that just doesn't work for you, it doesn't suit the stage of your life, it's not aligned with your goals and things like that, what do you find are some of the options that neurodivergent folks have when it comes to trying to tackle a career transition and figuring out how to make things more sustainable and less burnouty and everything?
Burnouty. I love it. Um,
We make up words
I
on this show. I'm good
I
with
love it.
that.
No, I
This
love
is
it.
the internet. We can do whatever we want, right?
I'm gonna use it now. I'm gonna use it now. No, I think I have a lot of people come to me and say, "What job should I do? Can you give me a list of the jobs that are the best for neurodivergent people?" And I don't think it's that simple, right? I think it really has more to do with the self-awareness piece. I call it an energy audit. What drains you? What energizes you? Is there a task that's a primary part of your current job that every single time feels awful and takes so much out of you? You have to take note of those things. So the easiest part is writing those things down. What are the things that are non-negotiables? What are the things that are helpful? And then seeing where that takes you when it comes to other jobs. So many jobs have transferable skills that people don't even think about. Like teachers. I've had a ton of teachers say, I don't know what else to do other than teaching. And I'm like, what? You have so many skills from that job. But it takes a little time to sort through those. I think that's the most important part is like figuring out what works for you. Because even not all neurodivergent people are the same, right? Like what works for me, what feels good for me may not be the same for you. So I could tell you what sounds great to me, and you might absolutely hate that thing. And there are people who are speech therapists that are also neurodivergent and they love it for different reasons than why I didn't like it.
Yeah, it reminds me of something that I do in my courses and my programs when I'm coaching people, because a lot of people are feeling like I should know what I want to do with my life. Everybody else seems to know. It kind of goes back again to like a lot of people just kind of go through life based off of the vibes and based off of what feels good or what's available and things like that. And that doesn't always feel like enough for us because I don't know about you, but like I have ADHD. I have a different craft every week. Okay. Like this week, it's pipe cleaner plants. Okay. Sometimes, even if we feel really strongly about something, we'll be like, well, is this actually good for me? Or is this a hyperfixation that's going to last about 7 business days? So what we really want to do in those cases is gather data. Like literally, I will tell people like the first couple of sessions together talking about this, it's going to be data mining. It's literally like just mining your life for information that you can literally make into tangible things, like write it down in a spreadsheet, put it on a document, make voice notes, whatever way that it works best for you. And from there, once you actually have everything laid out, you have it all mapped out in front of you, you don't have to worry about your brain, whether you're forgetting to factor something in or whatever, then you can start making a lot of us as neurodivergent folks are really gifted with pattern recognition, as you mentioned earlier. So why not use that to our advantage in this case and really get some clarity as to what works for you and what doesn't? And, one other thing I'll say is that, as you said, like it's really important to write these things down about how you're feeling and what you're reacting to, because a lot of us have a lot of trouble identifying what the sensations and what the feelings that we're having in the moment are. Sometimes it takes a minute to process it. Sometimes I can't figure out that I'm hungry until I am literally ravenously starving and I think
Yes.
I'm gonna die. And I'm like, why didn't I eat 2 hours ago? So it's really important to make a lot of effort and create processes where we can collect this information about ourselves. We give ourselves the opportunity to kind of review the information and figure out what works best for us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, exactly. And I think also just giving yourself permission to make a change. I think it's so funny
Yes.
that people make such a big deal out of them now not liking something that they used to like. I'm a
Mm.
totally different person now than I was when I was in college and I was wanting to be a speech therapist. And it only makes sense that what we know and what we like and even what our strengths are going to change over time. So, like taking a new inventory at some point later on is a really nice task to go through. And yeah, the pattern recognition, 100%, it's the best for that sort of thing. But I think, like you mentioned, you really have to get out of the mindset of just thinking, well, what do I like? Uh, that can be a trap if you
Mhm.
go into wanting to find a job and you're just saying to yourself, what do I like the most? Well, that thing, that topic may not have a job attached to it that is an actual role or an environment that works for you. And that's equally as important. Having an interest in it and liking it can be very different. So I totally agree. Making sure that you're really thinking through all those pieces of it so that you don't end up like me.
I mean, like, you know what? I totally understand because you've gone through the ringer just like a lot of our listeners. I think it's really important to reassess your interests, your goals, what you need at different stages in your life, because what you need now is not the same as what you needed before. Your career might change multiple times. Our interests are going to change. What motivates us is going to change. To build on what you said earlier, like just because you like something also doesn't necessarily mean it's right for your career. Back in high school, I was an arts major. I was a vocal major. I used to sing. It was basically like Glee every day in my school. And yeah, I know, right? So that was basically my life. I love musical theater. To this day, I still love it. But I had to think to myself, did I really want to do music and theater as a career? And like, if I had to do this every day, if my money depended on my ability to get up and do a great performance, would I be able to keep that up? And so the answer is often like, just because you're good at something, just because you enjoy something, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be sustainable for the long run.
Yeah.
I did marketing for 10 years before I started this coaching thing. I know I'm great at it and I still enjoy it and everything to a certain degree. It's not the passion of my life. I don't live to market businesses,
Right.
but it is something that is sustainable for me. It's something that I can do every day without like getting exhausted. And then at the end of the day, I still have time to be able to do the other things that I love to do. And that's more important than me being starving artist trying to like make it on Broadway and all that kind of stuff there. So yeah, it's really important to think about those nuances. And as you start to navigate those nuances, whether you're doing it on your own, whether you're taking a course, or whether you're working with a coach like myself or Kaci, these are the things that we try to figure out. What is your unique definition of a sustainable work life? And how can we define that and then create a path towards that?
Yeah. I am so happy that you mentioned about being good at something. That is a conversation I've had with a lot of people that just because you're good at something doesn't mean that it's the right thing for you. And I think that surprises people sometimes. I don't know. I think we're so capable because we do so much sort of living in survival mode, oftentimes, especially in the workplace, where, yeah, you can push yourself and make yourself really uncomfortable to be really good at a job. Maybe it even is something that comes naturally to you, but there are other things about it that you don't like. I was a fantastic SLP. I won awards. I did great stuff, but it wasn't something that I could do or sustain. And that's eventually what happened is I just got to a point that I couldn't cope anymore. The strategies that were working for me, my ability to mask as well as I once was, even when I didn't know what that term meant, they just went away. I lost all of that energy. So I think that that part's really important. I had mentioned strengths before, but I feel like those are two different things. Like your natural strength and what you like doing that feel good to you may not necessarily be exactly the same as just stuff that you're good at, if that makes sense.
We'll be continuing our conversation with Kaci Muecke in our next episode of Work is Rigged. In the meantime, if you want to continue supporting our podcast and Atypical Careers, please follow us online at atypicalcareers.com. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and especially our online Facebook community, which has over 80,000 neurodivergent career professionals from around the world having real conversations just like the one that you heard. So be sure to check us out, give us a follow, and hopefully I'll see you